I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, April the 21st, brought to you in part by VitaFerm Mineral by Biozyme. I guarantee you they're for the cattle industry. I had a good visit with my friend David Gallagher that's sold VitaFerm Mineral for an eternity there. He sold more of that stuff than it takes to fill the Arrowhead Stadium several times over, but really a great guy there, longtime friend, great company there, VitaFerm. Evidently, oil is worth less than nothing. And you think, how does that work? Well, your May delivery contracts of West Texas Intermediate crude oil finished at negative 37.63. Wow. So the deal on that is there was nobody there that wanted to take delivery of that product. So it settles here on Tuesday, and so it'll get off the board and get out of the way. But there's no place to store it. Your refineries are not needing it. Nobody's really needing any more oil. We have gotten word the OPEC and some other countries not in OPEC are going to start cutting supplies, so we should see that kind of return to some kind of a market. But still, your June and July contracts are above $20 a barrel, which is still extremely cheap, and a lot of us are seeing gas prices that are around $1, some places less than $1. I was in Oklahoma and saw some prices less than $1 for regular gas there, but I tell you what, it's pretty tough. I tell you what, everybody is hurting all over. Just think how these oil companies are hurting. All of your ag is hurting. This coronavirus deal has just about brought this country to its knees, and people have started to rear up on this shutdown deal. They're tired of it. They're ready to get back to work. They're ready to go back to restaurants. I mean, those that are scared, stay home. The rest of you that feel all right and you're ready to go back, let them do it. I mean, we've got to get back to work, guys. And I know your farmers and ranchers have been to work all along, and to tell you the truth, hadn't seen a whole lot of difference other than they can't take their wife out to eat on the weekends or in the evenings there. But the rest of the public, they're ready to get back to work. They're ready to start hanging out together, and we've just got to risk it. If we don't, we're going to completely lose this country if we don't get back to work at some point. But was over in Oklahoma City on Monday, set up the Heritage Place, quarter horse racing sales there, and going to be doing those on DV Auction too. We're very diversified here at DV Auction, but some of you guys that like to buy quarter horse racers, you might want to get on there when the big sales come up. You can sit right in the comfort of your own home. But that's just how this whole industry is changing, the auction industry of how we can't gather up anymore, and of course you don't know how long that's going to last or if it's going to break back out again. A lot of people feel like that if we do open back up, we're going to have another round of this, and my gosh, I don't think we could stand another round of it. Our government's about broke from bailing everybody out, and it was good word that we saw on Friday late that we've got the stimulus package for your agriculture people. It'll be the first major one for cattle people just on the market. I know we've had some smaller ones due to drought and things like that, but it'll be the first one. We hope we don't have to do that again. We hope we can get our market stable enough, get some more negotiated cash trade in these fed cattle. Of course, when you have a pandemic like this, who knows? We might have to go through something like this again, but we don't want to get to the point in the cattle industry where these stimulus deals, these bailout programs, are part of your ag business plan like they are in the row crops, because that you're just completely strapped to the government then, and if they make a change in how they're making those payments, and it just throws everything off kilter. But we want to get this cattle business and your markets competitive enough where people can survive and continue to make a living doing what they love. We just got to get part of that back from these packers that are absolutely hogs. They're just taking all the profit out of the industry and not sharing hardly any of it. But changes are coming, guys. I think so. With these investigations, a big push for changes in your cattle industry, I think it's going to come back around. We're going to keep our feet to the fire until we get something done here. We had another big round of auctions, cattle production sales this past weekend. A lot of them were timed auctions because can't gather up. But your DV auction sale report for last weekend, we had 3,800 bids online, 790 lots sold, and $3 million in online cattle sales on your production sales. On your video catalogs on dvauction.com, we've got 50 of those posted right now, 3,600 lots included, 30,000 lot views online, and 275,000 individual video plays. So there's a lot of activity online, especially when people are shut up, but it's going to continue and get more so as we go forward. Let's look at the futures market on Monday. April live cattle futures down $1.12 at 93.52. June was down $1.20 at 85.10. You know, those were higher to start out the morning, and the board actually opened up with live cattle, you know, before they had an actual trade, had it posting at limit up. But, you know, because we thought with the bailout and things coming back around, big demand for boxes, although they can't get the cattle moved. But, you know, it settled back down there and came off quite a bit there at the close with your out front contracts from 30 cents to $1 lower. Feeder cattle contracts, April feeder cattle down $1.20 at 118.32. May was down $2 at 117.27. All of this is just from cattle backing up at every segment. You know, our calves, our yearlings, our fat cattle, everything's backed up. We just can't get them through the processing system fast enough, and we've known forever that we're vulnerable because we don't have near enough slaughter capacity in this country, and we need to get more of it. And how we do that, you know, everybody's saying build a cooperative slaughterhouse. That would be great. It's very, very expensive. It hasn't worked very well the last 20 or 30 years for outfits that's tried to do it. The knowledge that you need to know is very specific. You would have to hire that away from your existing packers, and then your packers are not going to let you live. They'll undercut you at every opportunity, and I know it's a bad deal, but we just it's a dangerous business to get into when we don't know what we're doing there, and they use a lot of tactics. I tell you what, they're more ruthless on that end of the business than they are on the cattle end, and you've seen what it's done to this industry already. But your out front feeder cattle contracts were down from 7 cents to 75 cents, so we are seeing a little bit of support out front for feeder cattle. Your weighted average on last week's fed cattle, negotiated fed cattle sales in your 5-area feeding region, embarrassing to tell you guys. 5-area feeding region sold 16,500 head total fed cattle negotiated. That compares to just 20,700 the week before, and then 112,500 the same week a year ago. So over 95,000 head more sold a year ago this last week, negotiated, than last week. Unbelievable. We're trying to get some more. We're asking for 30% minimum. We're hoping to get more. We're just going to have to see what the attitudes are like. We don't want to go in there blazing too hard and miss the boat. We want to be able to compromise, but we want to demand enough minimum that it'll make a difference, and hope for more there. But we'll see how things go. There's sure a lot of interest in it and a lot of talk about it, and I think something's going to get done. There's enough groups that have gotten together. Some have decided not to and just to fight it, but we've got enough different groups, diversified groups. We've got a lot of these state affiliates of NCBA that are working for their state, for their members there. They're getting on this deal. The big ones in the Midwest that have a lot of members and got a lot of pull. We've got a lot of organizations, a lot of businesses, everybody getting together to push this thing, and then just regular old straight up individuals that don't get too political but are starting to push this thing, and we hope we can get it done. Your prices last week on steers and heifers ranged from $94 early in the week, and that's a $94.95, all the way up to $1.05 on Friday after they established that on the Fed Cattle Exchange online Fed Cattle auction, and we're glad that they did that. Your majors had to show some good faith out there and give something for these cattle. I tell you what, they've kind of stuck around that 105 the last 3 weeks or so. They're making monster profits this week. A couple of weeks ago when we had depressed boxed beef, they were just kind of making a normal profit. But now that we've seen sharply higher boxes here for the last several sessions, they're making monster money again. They may have to ante up a little bit more, even though your April board is still sucked back there about 93.5, and we're getting late in April here. But you can't just continue to keep your foot on the cattle feeder's head. And plus, they're establishing those prices for your formula contract deals. They've got to keep those guys fairly content at some level there, and they're just barely doing it here. And I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see them give at least $1.05 this week, even if the board doesn't get any closer to cash. But we'll see what happens. Should have to give more with the way the boxes are trading here, because it is getting so blatant what they're doing here and how much profits they're making. And we'll figure out what cattle ought to be bringing here in our next couple of visits, and we'll discuss that once again. But dress prices on solder steers and heifers from 150 all the way up to 168. We saw some regionals paying down there at 150, 155 early, but your major packers came in there late in the week and they didn't buy very many. I mean, we only sold 16.5 for the whole week, so there wasn't much sales there, but 168 dressed, and that's kind of what they were given the last couple of weeks. But your weighted average on live sales, 102.28, down $2.72. Weighted average on dressed steer sales, 157.18, down $10.82. Nationwide, the entire nation, negotiated fat cattle sales of 20,700 head. That is ridiculous. Only 6% sold for the 2 to 4 week out delivery, so that's I'm not sure if that's encouraging or scary there, but they're not trying to lay too much out. Of course, they didn't buy hardly anything, but most of it was for current delivery, which is 14 days. Current delivery is not 5 days or 7 days. I mean, it takes a lot of wherewithal to deliver big cattle like that. And sometimes of the year you got weather conditions and different things affecting the way you get cattle moved around. 14 days is current delivery. Box beef cutout values, I told you, they soared. And they're already up big this week, and probably will continue, because we're seeing a big push for these retail markets to make sure that they've got product in there for their customers, as they start to hear that we're looking at a possibility of protein shortage due to these plants being pulled back so much. But choice boxes on Monday, $248.38, up $9.39. That is huge. Select cuts, $237.99, up $10.79. Wow, they'll have to give more for cattle, or I mean, people will just completely lose their minds here. Choice select spread, $10.39, 110 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. Let's talk about what else is going on. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on DB Auction late in the day on Monday at 121.35, actually higher, even though we didn't get any support from the board really. Early it was a little bit supportive, but not too much late in the session there, and didn't impress anybody too much. But guys are ready to buy feeder cattle again. They've got empty pens, even though they've been moving them kind of slow out the other end, but they've got some places to put them. They need to get some cattle bought so they don't have a hole as they work through whenever these cattle would finish. They've got to have some cattle to sell all along, keep that cash flow going. They're still struggling to buy these cattle that will hedge, but they got some cattle, and their runs were quite a bit better around on Monday. So guys were able to get in and start putting some loads together and doing business again. But real-time index 121.35, up $1.33. Look at your big sales on Monday. Oklahoma National Stockyards in Oklahoma City, 6,500 head there. Feeder steers $4 to $8 higher. Those were big, the big heavier steers weighing over 8.5, only steady to 2 higher, but still better. Feeder heifers $6 to $10 higher. That tells me these buyers are struggling to find something that will hedge, and they're moving into the heifers and thinking that they might have a better chance as we move into the summer months here. But calves were $5 to $10 higher, where they were well tested there. Joplin Regional Stockyards, 5,100 head there in Joplin. Mostly steady, spots up to $3 higher, mostly on the lighter stocker calves and on the bigger feeding steers there. But I want to show you this good test of commodity cattle. Doesn't embarrass Joplin when I say commodity cattle. I tell you what, they're the kind of cattle that you can afford to handle here. Nothing fancy, but on some commodity cattle, some mixed ones and twos, colored up a little bit, you know, not going to knock your eyes out, but sure enough, good commodity cattle. Big string of them, 234 head of them, weighed 799, or right at 800 pounds, at 116 1/4. Okay, so you look at that. Those cattle are bringing about $930 a head. You use a conservative guess of 65 cents for the gain on those and take them up to 1,400 pounds. That's another $360. Those cattle break about $94.50, from 94 to 94.5. Well, your October board's at 95.35, so you can hedge those cattle, but you better not stub your toe anywhere, I guarantee you, because then it won't work out at all. But we did, in Joplin, they did have 2 loads of replacement quality heifers. They get commodity cattle in Joplin, they get the fanciest ones that walk. They had 2 loads of replacement quality heifers in Joplin. 800 pounders bring 118.50. That's pretty impressive. There's for some replacement quality heifers there, and 2 loads of them. I don't mean bumper pull loads, I mean truck loads, pot loads. How about Russell Livestock, Russell, Iowa, 2,700 head there. And I just brought up the load lots of 7-weight steers here. Look how much better this deal is, guys. It's quite a bit better. I mean, even when you're thinking back months and months ago, this isn't horrible. You know, this is a market that you can kind of sink your teeth into. You're not happy with it. The cattle probably not making much money. They're mostly home-raised calves being up there in Russell, Iowa. But tell you what, 123 1/4 to 134.75 on load lots of 7-weight feeder steers. And then how about our newest broadcasted market on DV Auction here, and the newest one that you can view and bid live on is Sioux Falls Regional Livestock in Worthing, South Dakota. Very excited to have them on board with us, and more excited to get this market here, because I haven't been able to really see these market in the big individual strings of them. They had 2 loads of big steers, weighed just over 1,000 pounds in Sioux Falls and Worthing, and they bring 109.50. But look at the best quote that I saw all day on Monday come out of Sioux Falls Regional Livestock there. 67 head, 904 pound steers bring 124.50. And that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.